Barista error is something that's actually pretty common, you know, under high volume. Like there's no way that you're going to be able to quickly and accurately dose the exact same puck every single time, unless you want to make your customers wait. Most people are in a hurry to get a good coffee. And so it's nice to rely on tools that can help make that more consistent.
I don't need to measure my shot weight because the machine's going to do that for me. And then it's going to give me the exact ratio that I want of dry coffee to finished shot weight. Now when we're going to pull a shot, we hold down the first button.
So hold that till it flashes.
So it flashes, and now we put our portafilter in, loaded with coffee. It's going to measure the coffee dose. So that one's 18.2. Lock that in, push our button, and now it's going to pull it to 36.5.
Good day, everybody. We're back here at the SJCB Save Us Service workshop, where we fix a lot of espresso machines, primarily La Marzocco machines, and we have a unique one here today. This is the La Marzocco PB ABR model. This is a machine that's slightly different from what we use in my stores. We generally just use the standard PB AV model, which are very simple to use, but since we have this we're working on this machine for another client right now, and we're given the rare opportunity to actually get into what the two different modes are. The pulse mode, which we generally use in my stores, and then the mass mode, which is included in this model specifically. So I'm going to hand it over to Callum, who's our technician here, and he's going to explain the difference between pulse mode and mass mode, and why you might find that beneficial for your shop.
Okay, so on a Linea PB, if you're getting the AV model, similar to what we have here, you don't have any scales here. You can see it's just a regular drip tray, nothing underneath. So this one is sort of programmable using a flow meter, which measures the volume of the water coming into the coffee. Whereas this one, the ABR has scales built into it. So basically under each group you have an individual scale that will measure the weight of the coffee as you're pulling a shot. So if you look underneath the drip tray, you have scales here. So these are what's going to be weighing the coffee as you're pulling a shot. And you also have flow meters on these machines, similar to that one there. So just going to lift that up a bit, but same thing on the top of each group head here, you have flow meters, and those are going to be also measuring the volume of the water coming through the group head. So you have both options on this machine, so you can program it however way you like. Obviously, if you have the scales, you're probably going to want to use the scales. So what we're going to do now is I have the left group set to mass mode, so we're going to be using the scale on the left group. On the right group, we're setting it to pulse mode, which is the flow meter. So this one, it won't be using the scale at all. It's just going to be using the flow meter. And the flow meter works basically by, as water's passing through it, it's basically spinning. The wheel that's spinning has two sensors on top, two magnets, and then there's a sensor that measures the magnets as it passes by. So every pulse is basically a half spin of that wheel. So using that, it knows how much water is passing through because it's measuring the spin of the impeller. So we're going to go ahead and try both of these. We're going to pull a couple shots on each. Basically on the left group, I've set it to 36 grams on the scale. Very easy to do that. You just go into programming, set your desired weight, turn it on, and that's it. On the right group, I've programmed the volumetrics to 36 grams. So basically what we did is get our dry dose in, pull a shot, stop it at 36, and then in pulse mode, we can turn up or down the pulses if we need to adjust just a tiny bit from there.
Right, so the flow meter just remembers the amount of pulses to record every single time, and it'll just repeat and repeat and repeat.
Yep.
We want to see how consistent both options are and sort of get an idea of what the best option for consistency is.
Cool. So we're going to do it sort of like we would do it in a shop where if we're busy and we're pulling shots back to back, we're not going to be measuring every single dry dose. We're just going to be measuring the output weight. So we're going to use that to sort of see which one's more consistent.
Awesome. I'll pull a shot. You want to start on pulse mode or mass mode?
Let's do 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay.
That way the temperature in the coffee boiler is consistent.
Smart. I'm going to prep another shot just so we can quickly move on to the next one. All right. Let's see how much that weighs.
35.5. Okay.
And now we are on to the pulse mode function, or the mass mode function from that.
Okay.
And again, this has the scale built in, so it's going to know exactly when it's truly at its target weight. As you can see here, it's aiming for 36. Looks pretty close. Wow.
35.9.
Okay. So I guess some things to consider with like why there might be a little bit of a difference with this is that if your dose kind of fluctuates a little bit, like let's say you always aim for 18, but sometimes you get 18.5, the puck is going to actually absorb a little bit more water. And so if it's dispensing a set volume of water instead of a target weight calibration on the other end, you're actually going to end up shorting some shots or overdoing some shots with the pulse mode.
Yeah, because the flow meters are basically measuring the water before it hits the puck. So depending on how your puck is prepped, there might be some variance there. The flow meter has no way of knowing the final dose weight, basically. Okay, what do we got here? 35.4. So pretty close to what our last dose was. Okay, so now it's going to tear. It's teared, and now we're starting to get coffee. Pretty nice looking shot, Sam.
I think I've made a few coffees in my time.
5.7, which is 36.0.
All of this is much easier to get accurate and predictable results when you are starting with the same amount of coffee and a similar puck prep every single time too.
Okay, 35.4, 35.5. Okay, so we're staying within 0.1 grams here, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, both functions work very well. But I really like the sort of final confirmation proof that you get with this.
Well, what's nice about that too is on volumetrics, let's say if your coffee is absorbing more water one day and you're noticing you're getting like here 35.5 when we wanted to program 36.
Yep.
You don't need to go in and turn up the pulses.
Right.
It's going to weigh it every time, so it kind of does that on its own.
Gotcha.
Another thing too is if you have scale in your flow meters or you're having issues with the flow meter, just typically scale buildup will cause that kind of thing. The wheel might spin slower than it usually does. And that's when you get sort of inconsistencies.
Gotcha. So this can kind of make up for like some barista error or...
Yeah, or even if you have a tiny bit of scale and you're due for a descale, it'll sort of, as long as the flow rate's still okay, it'll still pull to the same weight. Whereas if you're relying entirely on your flow meters, that might be an issue once you get into the scale buildup in there.
Yeah, it works great until it doesn't. And then in that case, something like this would continue to work great regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
And barista error is something that's actually pretty common, you know, under high volume. Like there's no way that you're going to be able to quickly and accurately dose the exact same puck every single time, unless you want to make your customers wait while you dial that in. But most people are in a hurry to get a good coffee. And so it's nice to rely on tools that can help make that more consistent.
It's also nice too to have both options on the machine.
Yeah.
If you ever have an issue with your scale or anything like that, you can always switch to pulse mode.
It's like an e-brake.
That's right, yeah. The emergency backup if you need it. 36.0, okay. That was on the right, yeah.
So this is the final shot.
Final shot.
We pulled 4 shots on each side in pulse mode and mass mode. And we're getting a pretty good idea of the consistency that you can expect out of both. But also just the useful function of something like this as an add-on to your espresso machine. You're right, those are nice looking shots.
They are, yeah. So that actual weight is 35.8.
Wow.
Okay, so on the left side, we aimed for 36. We got one that was perfect, one that was off by 0.1, and 2 that were off by 0.2. So generally average variance was maybe 0.1, 0.1 and a half. I don't know the math there. Right group, which we had on pulse mode, pretty close on the first 3, within 0.1. The fourth one, we got 36 grams. So a little bit more variance there, but if we're talking about a half a gram, I'm not going to notice the taste difference. You probably won't notice the taste difference.
Well, there's only one way to find out, Cal.
That's right, yeah. So
yeah, it's delicious.
I would say it's about a tie, with maybe a slight advantage for mass mode. Just having that scale built in and being able to sort of verify the actual shot weight, I think makes a difference, especially if your dry doses are varying, if your tamping is varying, and even your sorting. So I think,
also as a backup function too, like it's really useful to be able to have both.
Yep. Cool. I think one more thing we can try right now is just the Auto Brew Ratio.
So that is actually the namesake of this machine is ABR, which means Auto Brew Ratio. This is another function on top of pulse and mass that you have, where you can actually tare the weight of the coffee going in and have the espresso machine give you an exact ratio that correlates to that amount of coffee. So if you get different coffees or you have different, different available coffees on the bar, you can achieve the same ratio despite having different input weights, just simply by tearing that puck before it goes in. And that's something that Callum's going to sort of explain a little bit better with an example.
In programming, we have a few options. So we have pulses, we have mass. So that was what we were using previously. And then we have brew ratio. Brew ratio is also going to use the scales, but it's going to have the added step of tearing the coffee before we pull a shot so that we're getting the same ratio every single time. So group 1, button 1. So what we're going to do is program group 1, button 2. And I think what we'll do is just a standard sort of 2-to-1 brew ratio. So 1 to 2.
So it'll double your input weight. So if you put 18 grams of coffee in, it'll give you 36 grams of beverage.
Yep, exactly. So group 1 portafilter mass, this is where we'll weigh that.
Important to note too, with this one, ABR is intended to be used with a spouted portafilter, which you'll notice something about the design of the scale plate. It fits the exact shape of the Marzocco portafilter. So if you've ever got your scale plate set up in reverse, this won't work. Well, I can imagine there's a lot of baristas out there who are using one of these machines for the first time who are like lost in the sauce, confused about it. This is really good for me too.
There we go, 18.1. Okay, so now let's try this.
So 18.1
we should get 36.2. Yeah, target weight 36.2.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
So yeah, if it knows the weight of the portafilter, it can measure the weight of the dry coffee in there.
Yep.
And then just do the quick math on what a 2-to-1 ratio would be. So 18.1 in gives us 36.2 out.
So yeah, what you want to do at the beginning of the day, if you have one portafilter that you're using for one group head, you'd basically start at 36.2. Look at that, 36.3. When you start the day and you know which portafilter you're going to use for each group, you would basically empty your portafilter, get rid of all the grinds in there, and then hold down the second button. It's going to ask you the portafilter weight. Wait for it to see 0. Put that in. It's going to measure your portafilter weight automatically. Okay, so now it's 558.8.
And you got to wait till the buttons flash on the group head? I think
yes, you'll wait for it to go to 0 and then you put the portafilter in. So now this group knows what the weight of the portafilter is. We don't need to change that. So throughout the day, just use that portafilter on that group head.
Don't switch them up.
Yeah, and it's going to measure the dose of the coffee every time. So let's say we're prepping a shot now. I don't need to measure my shot weight because the machine's going to do that for me. And then it's going to give me the exact ratio that I want of dry coffee to finished shot weight. Because that's going to be the most sort of important part of our recipe, other than shot time, is the ratio of finished coffee weight to dry coffee dose. So now when we're going to pull a shot, we hold down the first button.
So hold that till it flashes.
So it flashes, and now we put a portafilter in loaded with coffee. It's going to measure the coffee dose. So that one's 18.2. Lock that in, push our button, and now it's going to pull it to 36.5. So that's an automatic 2-to-1 ratio.
Very cool. So this allows for even more forgiveness for barista error or fluctuations with dosing, so that you can always achieve the ideal ratio outcome.
Yep. And that also means that you take an extra 2 seconds of holding down that button to weigh your dry dose.
Yep.
So rather than put your dry dose on a scale,
True.
you just put it on the machine, load it in, and it's going to pull the exact ratio that you want for that.
Amazing.
So we're at 36.5. Right
Nice.
on the money. So that way, if I had just dosed 17.5 grams, it would give me 35 grams. If I had dry dosed 18.2, just like that, it would give me 36.5. So it automatically adjusts the machine to your sort of variance and shot
And allows you
preparation.
just even more refined replication of a dose.
Yeah.
Or of
a recipe. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, doesn't matter what you're dosing, it's going to give you the same sort of ratio of water to coffee, which is going to give you the same flavor, no matter sort of the dry dose.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Callum.
Yeah, no worries.
If you have any questions, you can always reach out to myself or Callum at Save Us Service here. Go online, you'll see our website on the Sam James Coffee Bar website. You can go to a direct link to the Save Us Service page, and we'll take care of you from there.